I'd like to first give you some very quick housekeeping. I'm advising you today's event is being recorded and will be shared on our channels at a later date. We will not be recording the 2 breakout networking sessions. I'd also like to advise while you're on mute for the beginning of today's event, this event will be dynamic and interactive. As well as giving guest talks, we will be rolling some video and breaking you into 2 smaller 20-minute breakout networking groups so you can discuss deeper your experiences and challenges of digital transformation. So please be ready to turn your camera on and come off mute for this part of the event. Towards the end of the event, we will also open the floor to recap on discussions and invite participation from you at this part of the event as well. Today's event is going to be co-hosted by our event sponsors, Nick Turberville of Invest Northern Ireland and Causeway member Chris Grant of Digital Construction Skills. We are delighted to have a keynote guest talk Q&A from Mike Brown, CBE MBO Chair of the Restoration and Renewal Delivery Authority at the Houses of Parliament, and a guest talk also from Causeway member John Noone, founder and CEO of Joule Group. In addition to Nick and Chris hosting today's event and Invest Northern Ireland and Joule Group's sponsorship, I would like to take the opportunity to thank other contributors in this series of events, our Causeway members and partners, John Hunt of Enterprise Ireland, Saffron Grant of Digital Construction Skills, Linda Scott of Causeway and Co-Plan, and Eugene Mullen of Causeway and Smith Scott Mullen Architects. They've all been really instrumental in shaping this series of events and will be helping facilitate our networking breakouts today. I'm aware we do have a mix of people here today from construction and digital sectors. You're all very welcome. Some who are Causeway members, some who are not. Causeway is all about facilitating opportunities to connect businesses and professionals from both sides of the Irish Sea, to explore collaborations and boost trade. I'd like to take this opportunity to give a particular warm welcome to some of our newest Causeway members since our last construction event in June who are here today. Adam Rock of Bellrock Technology, Richie Smith of Contingent Tech Network, Alan Masterson of SimPro Software Limited. Also, towards the end of today's event, we will hear from our chair of Causeway Ireland Scotland Business Exchange, David Greenlease, who is also Chief Commercial Officer of Cooper Software. So to kick off today's event, I'm now going to pass over to co-host Chris Grant of Digital Construction Skills. Over to you, Chris.
Hello and welcome to all our Causeway members, our speakers, and to those of you, our guests. You're all very welcome. It's great to have you with us here today. My name's Chris Grant, and I'm co-founder of Digital Construction Skills, and we're a member of the Causeway Network. We're based in Glasgow, and we work with construction industry leaders to help them select and implement the right digital tools for their business. We're also currently delivering a fully funded education and support programme on behalf of the UK Construction Industry Training Board, aimed at giving leaders and SME businesses the skills and confidence they need to drive digital transformation within their organisation. We've been members of the Causeway Network for a few years now and have made some incredible beneficial connections through the network in both the construction industry and wider sectors. And that's what Causeway is all about, really, connecting people, professionals and businesses for networking, discussions, collaborations in an informal, warm and friendly way, as well as protecting and enhancing the trading relationships between Scotland, Ireland and Northern Ireland, regardless of the political environment. Causeway are very grateful for the support of our series sponsor, Invest Northern Ireland, who have been instrumental in making this whole series possible, and would also like to thank the Joule Group for sponsoring this event today. I think it's fair to say most of us have missed the face-to-face dialogue and gatherings over the past 12 to 18 months. But going online with this series of events, I think in particular, has been a great opportunity. And it has allowed us to develop some strong personal and business relationships on both sides of the Irish Sea. And over the course of the series, we have heard from some of the most innovative and amazing construction industry pioneers working in the construction and construction tech space, who have came along and kindly shared their wisdom and insights. And it's really encouraging to see that quite a few have since joined us as Causeway members. And that really bodes us well for the future of the network. So on to today's event, collaborating in digital construction. Never has it been more vital or necessary in our industry, for a variety of reasons, to get to grips with meaningful collaboration and fire safety. This is the last in our present series, and I'm sure you're all as excited as I am to hear our guest speakers who will be discussing these topics today. I'm going to hand you over to Nick now, Nick Turberville of Invest Northern Ireland, who will be hosting the Q&A sessions with our fantastic speakers. And I look forward to meeting some of you in our breakout sessions. So hope you enjoy the session. Nick. You're on mute, Nick.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Chris. Just to add to the welcome of Aoife and Chris, Invest Northern Ireland are delighted to be sponsors of this programme of events and pleased to be joined by co-sponsors on the event, John Noone, CEO and founder of Joule Group, and Mike Brown, chair of the Houses of Parliament Restoration and Renewal Agency. We talk about being sort of stuck in a virtual networking world. It was my pleasure to actually be in an event face to face with both Mike and John yesterday down in London. Yeah, for this series of events, it was felt that we continue in the webinar format. So before I go on to the first session with John, I'd like Aoife to just quickly roll some VT that introduces the Joule Group to us all.
TFS Compliance, the fire safety management platform that will streamline your fire safety operations and save you time and money. Do you know that you are responsible for the lives in your building? Can you show you are doing everything possible to manage the risk of fire? How much time are you spending producing essential reports and audits? Can you prove you're compliant with rigorous fire safety regulations? Can you say with certainty when and by whom regulatory checks are being completed? TFS Compliance can do all of this and more. It is a digital fire safety platform enabling compliance by simplifying the arduous task of completing daily, weekly and monthly fire checks, irrespective of building size or location. TFS Compliance is designed to be set up anywhere in the world and provides you with a detailed fire safety status by floor, by zone and by asset in real time across all your buildings. You will be audit ready instantly with no time wasted manually processing paperwork. Setup is simple. Configure and commission your buildings, installing digital tags throughout, effectively digitizing routine floor walks. This allows your people to complete fire checks with a few taps on their phone by simply scanning tags and confirming status. You can monitor your global estate from our dashboard, building a clear picture of compliance and risk to make informed decisions. By digitizing your fire inspection data, you advance your fire safety to align with smart buildings and IoT strategies. TFS Compliance. Simplify fire safety, improve compliance, reduce risk. Ask us how TFS Compliance can protect your people and property today and tomorrow.
Great, very informative bit of video there, John. You must be very proud of the production there. Tells us a lot about the app. Could you maybe tell us a little bit more about Joule Group, who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no problem, Nick. First of all, maybe just to kick off by saying we're delighted to co-sponsor the event, and you're all very welcome. So I hope the video will give you a little bit of background on our technology, but just a little bit of background overall on our business. We are Joule Group. We're established in 2017, and we provide engineering and technology solutions for fire safety in buildings. We operate with 4 offices and 30 staff across Ireland, the UK and the Middle East. And we really started out as fire safety engineers, so guiding and advising on and consulting on fire safety design, fire safety construction, handover, commissioning, and then supporting organizations just to manage fire safety in occupied buildings. And really where we seen the innovation and the opportunity then was really to develop a solution just to help manage fire safety in occupied buildings. And that would have been the little explainer video that was just ran there by Aoife.
Yeah, a real sort of glimpse into the future, I think, from how buildings have been run in the past. It's fantastic. Tell us a little bit more about the app and what problems you're solving with this digital tool,
Sure.
and why is it an innovative solution?
Sure. Yeah. So what I suppose on the backdrop of some of the events that have happened, it's really highlighted there's lots of challenges and lots of issues in managing the status of fire safety. And when we're going into these buildings and doing our audits and doing our compliance checks, we are finding lots of issues, and we're finding that the people that are responsible for managing these buildings find it really, really challenging. So a lot of them are doing paper-based checks, or the way fire safety is set up, that there's a number of different parties that's contributing to that, but it's really difficult to get at any point in time what the status of fire safety is. So we have developed, our innovation is really to bring that all together, to actually set up a process and a routine around managing fire safety digitally, and to create a very clear and accountable structure then for implementing that process, leading all the way through to actually understanding the status of fire safety in your building at any point in time. And currently, we're not aware of any other solution that does that. There is other systems that we would be very happy to integrate in with as part of a broader ecosystem and capture the data and have a digital flow with other systems. But akin to what is happening in the energy sector for buildings, where you have a rating, an energy rating for your building, we're equally looking to deliver on a fire safety rating for your buildings as well. And we just feel that the pace of change in the construction sector and across the built environment as a whole, this is a key area for development.
Fantastic. And how does this solution in particular enable collaboration, and who specifically is going to get the most benefit from it? Sure.
The people that's going to, I'll start from the last piece and then just work back. The people that's going to get the most benefit from this is the owners, the end users, and the operators. They're the primary beneficiaries, just in terms of making their job easier, making it easier to manage and understand what the status is. But fundamentally, the whole solution is driven around a core purpose of improving fire safety. So the occupiers of those buildings, be it residents or just be it people that's working in these buildings, are ultimately the people that's going to have a benefit that comes out of that.
Excellent. So fire safety, poor construction practices and lack of accountability are very much in the spotlight following the tragedy at Grenfell. We've had the Hackett report, and now the Building Safety Bill is passing through Parliament. What does this mean for the industry, and what impact will it have on your business and your clients?
Well, I think what we've seen at the Building Safety Bill is at this moment is actually being debated in Parliament, as you note there. And what that's going to bring around is a much tougher regulatory regime, particularly for residential buildings that are over 18 metres. And what that comes back to is the business as usual approach is no longer acceptable. And that was identified in the independent review by Dame Judith Hackett on fire safety. And that called for a fundamental cultural and a behavioural change to fire safety. And arising out of that then, and what will be in the Building Safety Bill, ultimately the Building Safety Act, it'll place legal duties on those who commission the work, who are involved in the design and the construction of these buildings, and then those that are responsible for managing fire safety in these high-risk buildings. So the onus is on these people to put in place and maintain what's called the golden thread of information. And that's where really there's a fantastic opportunity for digital systems to play that key role and connecting that information all the way through the design, the construction, and into the operational life cycle of the building. And the fundamental thing here that's really, really important is that and what they're calling for in the legislation is that information has to be accurate, it has to be easily accessible, and it has to be up to date.
So yeah, the importance of digital collaboration is not just the collaboration with people building the building, it's the interoperability for the operators of the building, collaboration with residents, but all in a digital manner.
Absolutely, it's creating that connection, that golden thread of information. So fundamentally, you should be able to have a full digital record and history of everything, all the way from design, construction into that operational life cycle. And then there'll be many different platforms and systems as part of that journey that's passing that baton of information across.
Excellent. So we've touched upon, you've got offices in Ireland, Northern Ireland and UAE, and you've obviously got some great products on the market. Where next for the Joule Group?
Yeah, it's a really exciting moment in time. As you can imagine, we had two very good days there when we were in London, particularly discussing fire safety and the opportunities that surround that. But we really see the UK market as a whole as a fundamental opportunity, just guiding around fire safety, particularly in the backdrop of the changes that are coming. So we're really focused on the UK, Ireland, and Northern Ireland market, and just helping those organisations just complete that digital transformation and complete that change that's required in the sector, in the built environment sector.
That's great. We'll wrap it up there, John. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for being a co-sponsor on this event.
No problem. We're delighted. Yeah.
Good stuff. Aoife, back to you.
Okay, we're now going to have the breakout sessions of today's event. So what we're going to do is we're going to put you into groups of 5 or 6 for about 20 minutes. And what we suggest you, as well as give introductions to each other if you don't know each other, we want you, following on from John's talk, to discuss what do people think is the golden thread of information that new fire safety legislations call for? What should it include? And also, at what stage do you think it is necessary to consider fire safety in a collaborative digital project? Okay, I'm now going to open up the breakout rooms.
Hi there, guys. Hope everybody enjoyed that. So just to remind everybody that after we've had our Q&A with Mike from the Houses of Parliament Restoration and Renewal Agency, there will be another breakout session where hopefully you will get a chance to meet with some of the people that you didn't meet with in the first one. So yeah. We'll be after that breakout session, we'll be running through some of the comments of each of the breakout sessions and allowing other people to throw their 2 pence worth in, and hopefully it will stimulate a lively discussion. But yeah, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Mike Brown to all of you. I've worked with Mike for a number of years now, probably, crikey, Mike, what is it, maybe almost 10, 15 years. We've been working together in one way or another through his time at Heathrow and time as Managing Director of Rail at Transport for London, laterally Transport Commissioner, and now in his role as Chair of the Houses of Parliament R&R agency. So that sort of allows me to sort of kick off with a relatively soft and easy one for you, Mike. Can you tell us a little bit about what the Restoration and Renewal Programme is? What's the project and what's your role in it?
Well, as you said, thank you, Nick, and thanks for having me. Thanks to you all for having me. So as you said, I'm the non-executive chair of the programme. This authority, delivery authority to restore and renew the Houses of Parliament in the Palace of Westminster, was set up by an Act of Parliament. So we're there as a specific body with one remit, and that is to restore and renew the Palace of Westminster, parts of which actually are 900 years old. Westminster Hall is 900 years old. It's a building of national importance. It's a World Heritage Site. It's, of course, the home of the UK's Parliament. But it's also pretty antiquated beneath the gold gilt paint and the beautiful bits you see on the TV from time to time. It's got antiquated heating systems, ventilation, water drainage, and electrical systems are all totally obsolete. We've got steam pipes running alongside electrical cables, never a great idea. 7 miles of those steam pipes need to be stripped out. 250 miles of redundant cabling, including one I discovered the other day that says BBC Home Service on it.
When did they last broadcast?
Well, in the late 60s, I think, at least. A sewage system, probably too much detail for those with delicate disposition, was installed in 1888. And all I can tell you is it smells as if it was installed in 1888. And there's decay to the stonework, the woodwork, and all the iconic bits of the palace. No modern safety systems in the palace. Interesting hearing John talk about fire safety and fire system safety. Fires break out every week. In the Palace of Westminster. We've got 48 fire wardens on patrol 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, just to tackle those fires that inevitably break out. And we're spending double what we were spending 5 years ago. So now up to £127 million a year just to keep the place operating, about £2 million a week. It's kind of quite remarkable. So our job is to get to grips with that, restore and renew it to ensure it's fit for the home of the UK's Parliament for generations to come. So all we have to do is get through the multitude of stakeholders who have a view and keep telling me that when they got their kitchen done at home, they just moved the fridge and the microwave to the hall, and it was all very straightforward. So why is it so expensive, Mike, and what's the big problem?
And so, you know, as non-executive chair, what is your role, Mike? How can you make a difference in the delivery of this project?
Well, I think my main role actually is twofold, to be honest. One is just talking to and engaging with and getting familiar with those key stakeholders I'm talking about, whether it's elected members of the House of Commons, whether it's members of the House of Lords, or actually the sort of unseen thousands of people who work in and around the Palace of Westminster every day. Whether they're those who work in the catering outlets, whether those who are the clerks and officials of Parliament, servicing its functioning every day, whether those who are involved in the maintenance activities of the current building in its current state. So my role really is to kind of make sure those interfaces are managed correctly. And the other role I've got actually is to engage with small, medium-sized and large businesses across the UK to encourage them to bid for the tenders as they come up, and to encourage them to work in partnership with us to develop a skills model, both digitally and in other skills, to ensure that we have the right talent available for what will turn out to be the largest ever heritage restoration and renewal project that's ever been attempted in this country, probably in Europe, actually.
So it's you heard it here first. It's not just about gangs of stonemasons and massive companies in London. There's opportunities for all sorts of skills and talent up and down the UK, and indeed people from the Republic of Ireland as well. So how does digital construction specifically enable collaborative working on the project, and what do you see the long-term benefits of early collaboration being on the project?
Well, the great thing about a digital construction approach is that everyone will get access to the right data and information required. Everyone will have that up-to-date information in a single place, which is secure, obviously important from a security perspective in Parliament, but very importantly, easily accessible as well, so that we not already have a common data environment set up, even at this early stage of our work on the programme. So all contributing parties, everybody who's involved or would seek to be involved, can work collectively across the programme to coordinate design outputs, to deliver high quality designs as efficiently as possible. So actually, apart from just being the right thing to do to use that type of technology, it also saves significant time and effort for people who might be searching for information. It reduces risk to the programme by ensuring that everybody has that access to the right data. And, you know, we can have sort of things like digital rehearsals so that we can see the impact of design decisions at a very early stage before they are actually replicated or put in place on site. So we can fix issues potentially in the digital environment before making mistakes in the real environment.
Right, like tugging on that world service cable and bringing something down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how do you create the right conditions for collaboration and digital construction technology to flourish on the project? You know, what are the sort of key things that need to happen for this to be successful and for people to have in place? I mean, I suppose a lot of companies here are going, okay, it's going to be digital, that's fantastic, but what do I need to do to get my company ready to bid for work at Parliament?
So, well, I think the first important responsibility is actually ours as the client, which is to be sure that we are setting out clearly the requirements and standards we will be expecting from our supply chain partners at whatever tier to deliver to, and the protocols and processes which will allow this to happen. So I think that will then allow the programme to make an assessment on the right tool sets required to allow the programme to support the supply chain partners to deliver the programme goals. I think the other thing that I would say is that we can't let technology be a blockage to some of those smaller and medium-sized enterprises I was talking about. And they could be in core construction areas just as much as those specialist heritage types of skills which you referred to, Nick. But I think we have to make sure that we don't somehow create a whole digital BIM model, for example, just to use one example, and then find that people, because they're small and they're not really equipped for that, are kind of retrofitting an analog or paper driven overlay on our digital BIM model. So I want to work really collaboratively with the supply chain at the very early stages. And frankly, if that means that we end up providing some of the systems for these smaller and medium-sized companies, then I'm very happy that we do. And we might even end up contracting with them directly rather than through the tier one suppliers, because, and it's not to generalize the behaviors of tier one suppliers, but sometimes they can be quite pure in the way they administer contracts with and payment profiles with smaller suppliers. So I think there's a number of things we have to do, first of all, as a client, to set the right environment for this digital system to work properly.
Just a quick one while you make the point there, Mike. Has it been decided yet whether you'll be using project bank accounts or not on this, or is it still some way off?
No, it is funny enough. It's one of the things we've been talking about. I was at an investment committee of our board yesterday, and that subject actually came up. So I think we're gonna explore every possibility, and we're learning from other projects. You know, one of our board members has just been involved in refurbishing the Theatre Royal. He previously fixed Hampton Court Palace after it had a major fire a few years ago. And people have seen, you know, all of our colleagues on the board and in the executive team have seen from previous experiences I have actually at Transport for London, where things have gone well and where they haven't gone so well.
Yeah, excellent. So what are some of the main challenges that you've faced to date? I mean, how are your subcontractors adapting to digital collaboration? I mean, I know that I'm a terrible one when I'm collaborating with people, that I save things on my desktop rather than back in the cloud where I'm supposed to. Any experience of those sort of behaviors that you've got to drum out of people yet?
Well, we all come across dinosaurs like you, Nick, but actually, no, it's look, I would say that the key thing is that we are transitioning, if you like, from there being an in-house maintenance team, the scaffolding you see up at the moment around the Houses of Parliament, and indeed the one bit of work, material work that's gone on, which is the refurbishment of the Elizabeth Tower, which houses Big Ben, that's being done by the in-house estates team. So transitioning the responsibility for the major capital program over to us as this bespoke organization is a big challenge. So we've had to move away from the, you know, I'm not being rude, but slightly antiquated parliamentary systems that have been there for decades, possibly since the damn thing was built, to set ourselves up digitally relatively from scratch, while of course continuing to operate as a live program. So our key suppliers within the program that we're ready interface. So we've got a systems partner, we've got an architectural design partner in situ at the moment. They'll have to probably recontract with us for the next stage of work. But we want to maintain this open, collaborative relationship. Collaboration, of course, is an overused term that we all overuse a bit lazily sometimes, myself included, because collaboration doesn't mean you agree on absolutely everything, but it does mean you are fundamentally aligned to a common set of outcomes. So I think if we can instill that philosophy and that approach as we transition from the in-house parliamentary team into this core program that we have ahead of us for many, many years, then that will put us in good stead.
That's great. And finally, Mike, how do you think we go about normalizing collaboration and innovation in construction and make it mainstream?
Well, I think first of all, we've got to demystify it, to be honest, Nick, because I think sometimes people see it as something that it's not, and it's more complex than it really is. So make sure it's accessible to all, not hard work for people to be able to collaborate with each other, provide those common platforms, those common systems for communication so that proper conversations, proper innovations can be showcased to the masses, to employees, to other stakeholders, to people who are really interested. And in my case, arguably, it's every voter in the UK who should have a stake in this, because it is, after all, as you rightly pointed out, not London's Parliament. It is the UK's Parliament. So we've had some good initiatives already in the programme. We call it Knowledge Bites, where we set up sessions digitally via Teams to showcase what's new and interesting in the programme. We invite all members of the programme, including in our existing supply chain, to come into these, and we're just exploring how we might involve potential new members of our supply chain just to get an insight without sort of fettering our correct ability to procure going forward in a fair and transparent way. But we've got to have people to understand what we're doing to make them more effective in their bid process going forward. So I think just go back to the first point I made there, which is demystifying this, because we can make it extraordinarily complex. We can surround our language with jargon and just put off an awful lot of people from coming anywhere near us sometimes, because it's the language we talk fluently, and for others it might be their second or third language.
It's that demystify thing, because a lot of people out there in the market think that this is just a restoration heritage project. They forget the renewal part of it, which is where the innovation comes in. Well, the innovation comes into the restoration as well, but it really needs that innovation and collaboration in the renewal to make it fit for the 21st century.
It certainly does. Yeah, absolutely.
No, great. Thank you so much for your time, Mike. Aoife, back to you.
Yeah, so we're going to launch another 20-minute breakout room networking session. So this time we're going to ask you, how long do you think it will take for the construction industry to transition to digital collaborative working? And how do we normalize collaboration and innovation in construction and make it mainstream? Okay, I will now open the breakouts again. Again, it will be about 5 to 6 people in a breakout. Okay.
Thank you, Aoife. I hope everyone had an interesting discussion in that second breakout session. I'm now going to invite up onto the spotlights with me the collaborators from for this series of events to just maybe give some feedback on what the main discussion points were, anything that was particularly interesting, any salient points from your two breakout groups. So I think maybe John, Mr. Hunt, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Nick, and good afternoon, everyone. So look, two really interesting groups. We covered an awful lot of ground. So in the first question there, we were talking, if my memory serves me well, we were talking about the golden thread of information and some different views and perspectives. But across the group, we really recognised the importance of information through the project, and we recognised the shortfalls that came from the tragedy in 2017. And we recognise that there needs to be stronger links between what we do and the people who use and occupy the assets that we build in, and sometimes that connection isn't always there. But it was Alison actually who made a really important point. So a main contractor who after 2017 had to go back to some of their projects and look at the cladding that had been installed within schemes that they'd put together, and retrospectively that was a very difficult process. It was paper-based. Getting the right information in the right place at the right time was difficult, laborious, and time heavy. So one of the things of running the project on a paper-based system and having to go back is that A, it may not be complete, B, it's hard work, and C, it can be inconclusive. But fortunately, in this case, it wasn't. But it just showed, I suppose, that the journey and the importance. So it's never, it hasn't officially been called a digital golden thread, but the need for the golden thread not to be a heavily bureaucratic, labour-intensive administrative exercise, but to be a process and with a digitalisation element that can take some of the heavy lifting out of this is really important. So we need building safety at any cost, but we also need to do this in a way that's practical. So I think the digital aspect of the golden thread was something we talked about quite a bit. I'm conscious of time, so if I may, I'll go on to the second breakout session, and also some really interesting takes on this. So, how long do you think it will take? So we didn't have a straw poll for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, but we did look at some of the key drivers of what we felt would be super important. And look, that Dan at IFS came out with a very, very profound, and I will do him no justice at all in trying to sum it up. So maybe Dan, you can pick up on this point in a bit, but Dan said that the commercial situation is untenable, that we all face, and generally the efficiency drive is what will drive new behaviour. It will drive digital, it will drive technology, and it will drive collaboration. And one of the big areas we all agreed on that Dan flagged is tendering. Tendering is a massively wasteful exercise of time, money, just duplicating everything 8 times or 6 times. It's hitting the supply chain, massive cost, massive overhead, and we won't need to tender for work. And collaboration is obviously going to be a part of that. But how we establish trust with technology and with process, and whether it be financial mechanisms as well. But there's a way of doing this, and it's done in other sectors. We see it working very well in terms of some of the American forms of contract, and how they work in pharma and in data centers. Nothing, it doesn't have to be tendered to death, and actually you can save 12 or 18 months and a lot of time and sweat doing that. So we saw that as a massive incentive of digitization and collaboration. Is the drive for efficiency, and tendering is one of those areas. Also some really good pieces around how quickly tech will integrate and speak to each other. So regulation and technical boundaries and borders to the adoption of tech more often, and we hear it said a lot that you can end up with 50 apps to run a project. What we want is the kind of centralization of that information, data, and operations into a single platform. And again, a really good point by Alison was, how long will it take? How long will it take people to adapt? And is this a generational shift? And we talk about the demographic in the industry and the lack of people coming in to help with the acceleration of the adoption and moving of technology. So we recognize perhaps people is the slowing bit to bringing in technology, and also getting used to that move into a collaborative environment. But apologies, I think I might have even spoken longer than Mike did in the previous session, so apologies. Apologies, Mike.
John, that's fantastic. Fantastic. It sounds like you were involved in some very proactive groups, so really thrilling to hear. But yeah, in the interest of time, if we move on to you, Saffron.
Well, I'm going to be very quick because I've got to dive off in a second, but George was in the first group and Eugene was in the second group that I was in. So is it okay to get you guys to
yeah,
something?
that's
so
great.
I'll pass over to George.
That's great.
Thanks, Saffron. First of all, I thought the presentations from John and Mike were excellent, very informative, just shows you what's going on in the industry, which is really interesting. The first breakout room we had, I think the key point was we need more legislation to really ensure that this golden thread gets adopted, more awareness also. Also the skills and competencies that's needed within the industry needs to be addressed further, more resources you put on them to make people aware that the building information, the digital building information is so important, and we started right from the very start. We avoid all those other areas whereby it's going to take so much time, but it needs to be put in place, the digital building information, right from the very start, and addressed through every stage of that digital plan of work, right through to operations in FM. I think in terms of how many years it's going to take, it could take years in terms of the industry making that change for a digital collaboration event. But events like this, like that we've been putting in place for the last year, those 4 events, have been driving engagement, have been also addressing and making people informed that this whole digital construction process is there. It's just trying to get more familiar with what's going on within the industry. I think as an industry going forward, I think the owner-operator should be driving the change in terms of making sure that if they want digital building information to be addressed, they got to legislate for it, they got to ensure it in their contractual documents, so there's no confusion when it goes from stage to stage. And then I think there has to be, just in general, what's coming out from both sessions, more industry engagement, more awareness of digital construction. As an industry, we have to change, and it's going to go, and it's going to go digital. It's just putting that extra resource onto it. So great session so far.
That's great. Thank you, George. Chris. Still on mute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, another great session today, but rather than labouring the points we've already talked about, I think we were lucky enough to have John in our first group, and we were given a bit more interrogation about the golden thread and what it means to fire safety, and that was very insightful. But that was great. But I think what we have also, John, but also SimPro and Sustain IQ, which are 2 really other good digital tools. And I suppose the thing for me is the interoperability of these tools. They're all great tools. And how do we get them to speak to each other and actually get them to, like, get this digital ecosystem we keep talking about? I think that's really key. And really, I suppose we had a bit more of a pessimistic view of the length of time it's going to take. But let's not leave in a down point. But we'll keep fighting the fight anyway. All right.
Great stuff. Thank you, Chris. Eugene, have you got anything to add to the points already made, or should we just pick up on a couple of things from the chat?
Just a few small points, yeah. In terms of the how long, it was anywhere between 3 years and never in our group, and the full range. Interesting, there was mention of the UK government driving initiative, which is called Centre for Digital Built Britain, which might be worth looking into, and the sense that the politics are up for this. They know what they want to happen, but the industry isn't quite there yet. And I think just picking up on one of the points Chris said about the interoperability, and our group was asking, well, who actually owns the data and at what stage? And there are all sorts of professional and reasons and things driving behind that. And one of the feelings in our group was, well, the building owns the data. So how do you set that up as the basis? Okay.
Very, very salient point, Eugene. Just picking up on a couple of the comments in the sidebar, bypassing the tier 1s and contracting direct with the subbies, that would be major. I think that's huge. Everybody wants to see some of the power wrestled away from the tier 1s. Obviously, they're in there for very good reason. They bring a lot of experience and so on to projects, but one criticism can be that they can be a blocker for innovation. So that's obviously recognised. Duplicating 8 times and then not reading it anyway. I think that could be a fair comment, but it could also be that you identified yourself on the package in which the tender documentation arrived, and therefore it was non-compliant anyway. So, I think, while we knock procurement people from time to time, we do realise that they are in there to regulate and ensure things are done in the right way, in the right manner. But just an anecdote that one of the projects I worked with Mycom was bank station upgrade, where they did innovative contractor engagement where everyone was involved. So TfL had a problem. They didn't know how to fix it themselves. So rather than be prescriptive and say, we want you to build this, they said, what's the solution? Even if you weren't picked for the project, if one aspect of your solution was used, you would be paid for the work that you'd done there. And I think, while that's not always the answer for every project, it's certainly a good way of working collaboration. Mike, I don't know if you want to just correct any points I've made there or not.
No, I think it's just, I think the problem with the tendering process is twofold. One, on the client side, particularly public sector clients, there is an increasing litigious atmosphere out there for people to launch claims if they don't win bids. And I'm afraid all that does is drive the clients, if they are somehow within government, whichever government it is, in the broadest sense, small g, to actually, you know, go for 10 times duplications rather than 8. I mean, it's just, so this is a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way that we do need to crack out of. I absolutely agree with the process, and Nick's right. Bank is one model, but it's not the only one.
That's great. So all it leaves me to do now is hand over to David of Cooper Software to round up today's event on behalf of Causeway.
Thank you very much, Nick, and I appreciate all your involvement over the series of these events. And I think they've been a hugely successful series on digitalising the construction sector, sponsored by Nick and the team at InvestNI. Incredibly well attended and covering a wide range of topics, driving innovation throughout the sector. We hope to be building more construction-focused events in 2022 on the back of this success, and because it's really important that we continue this good work and hopefully help drive further positive change into the sector, as well as building more connections for businesses like you throughout Scotland and the island of Ireland. To our members attending, thank you for your continued support. To our guests today, please do consider joining Causeway. It really will make a difference. I've got a few important dates for the diary. So if you fancy getting out of your pyjamas and having a night out on the 7th of October, we have our annual Black Tie Awards dinner in Edinburgh. Now that's in the Assembly Room. So back to our first live event since March 2020. So we're all really excited about that. And of course, we'll be following all government guidelines very, very carefully on that night. We should have around 200 attendees, government ministers as keynote speakers. But importantly, it's a really fun night with some real opportunity to uncover opportunities and share some connections. This event is available to both members and guests, so please do consider getting yourself a ticket or even a table. There's also some sponsorship packages still available. They can really boost your brand across our target regions through online channels, on all our event materials, and also in person at the awards night itself. So it's well worth having a chapter team on these packages, because it really does give you the opportunity to expose your business to the wider audience. And we also have a more general networking event, Connecting with Causeway. That's an online event to bring together members, but also importantly give non-members the opportunity to get to know the power of Causeway and what it can do for them individually and them as a business. Now that's on the 14th of October. So just get online and sign up for this free event. So for membership information or for further information on our awards night or a general networking night, just visit us on our website, which is www.causewayexchange.net. I'll have a chat to me, Aoife or Megan. We really do want to try and maximise our numbers, and certainly in awards night, really give some really good profile to our members and potential members as well through some of our sponsorship packages. So thank you to everyone involved in these series of events. Some fantastic speakers from Invest Northern Ireland, from Enterprise Ireland, Digital Construction Skills, Integrated Facilities Solutions, Code Clan, Smith Scott Mullen, and importantly to our lead sponsor, Nick and the team at Invest Northern Ireland. Really massive thanks there. And also our individual event sponsors, Joule Group tonight, and also previously with George and the team at Integrated Facilities Solutions. Lastly, just a thank you to the team at Causeway for putting on a great show, and to your attendees that really have brought the value and made this a success. So just leaves me to say have a great evening. I hope to see as many of you as possible at awards night. Hopefully travel is a bit more inclusive at the moment, and we can start getting people face to face and get some fun and make some more connections. So thank you very much. I have nothing else to say, so have a great night, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks everyone. See those of you who can make it on the 7th.
Take care.